Yeah, we're going to go with the Auburn Tigers. As bad as I wanted this to be the Memphis Tigers,
Shocker.
we're going to go with the Auburn Tigers. Yes. We labored over this decision in the war room. We said, well, what about this team? What about that? But we just kept coming back to Bruce Pearl's Auburn Tigers. And I think, obviously, you guys know it's fairly obvious. They have done everything that you can ask a college basketball team to do through the month of February. They obviously just polished one off at Auburn. They can win in a variety of ways. They've beaten Alabama. They've beaten Houston. Yeah, they came up a little bit short against Duke, but they have shot makers all over the floor. Janai Broome, before he got hurt, was leading the way for Player of the Year. And yes, Cooper Flagg came in while he pipped him. That's okay. Everybody knows the matchup problem that a healthy Janai Broome is. So pick your poison on this team. They can defend as well when they need to. So we're going to go with the historically efficient team here in the Auburn Tigers with number one.
Well,
then I think it's CJ. You're number
bravo
two.
to you.
Panthers.
I'm number
Yes,
two.
thank you.
Bravo to you. You picked Peyton Manning. That was probably the smart pick.
Very brave.
I think I'm going to go with the team that I'm voting number two right now in college basketball. The team we've talked plenty about tonight, the Duke Blue Devils. I think that they've got the best player. They've got pros. You look up at the teams that win national titles. I think just about everyone I've gone back through the years has at least three NBA players. That is what Duke has. The Duke probably has more than that. Most talented roster in college basketball. Con Knipple, Cooper Flagg. They've got guys that can score. They've excellent defensive potential. They've played great defense so far. Lots of length. I think that Auburn would be my pick if I were going number one. So I don't blame John, but I think Duke, to me, there's other teams you could consider. I'm sure they'll get picked here shortly, but I think the Blue Devils are the best runner-up pick here.
And the John Fanta war room, I don't know if you guys could see this behind the scenes. It was a violent scene. He started throwing things across the room. He said, I cannot believe that Duke is off the board. It has completely thrown his war room for a loop. What do you got, John?
Not one bit. With the third pick in the 2025 National Championship Contenders Draft, the Fighting Fantas select the Florida Gators. And here's why. They have All-Americans. Walter Clayton being the main one. He is absolutely fantastic. When Elijah Martin is healthy, they make up one of the best duos that you are going to find. They just get Micah Handlogden back. And with the length that he can combine with Alex Condon on, Will Richard is a shot maker. This team is just outstanding on their best day offensively. And here's the deal. If CJ's going to take Duke, right, who owns one of those wins over Auburn, I'm taking the other team that's beaten Auburn. Because I don't think anyone's going to end up beating Auburn, but it's basketball. Anything can happen. And I think a lot of brackets are going to feature Auburn, which is why you probably should be different come March just for the sake of being different, because you could be really, really right. But Florida, to me, their explosiveness was shown in that win at Auburn. And they came out and they beat Auburn's defense. Auburn didn't have an answer defensively. And Bruce Pearl was like, we don't do that. Like, we have the nation's best offense, but my team's getting overwhelmed on that end of the floor doesn't happen. You guys watched Saturday. Like, in a game that was very high scoring, Auburn took away the three-point line for a majority of the game against Alabama's offense, and they made Mark Sears work for everything he got. Florida, they were the aggressor. They scored at will, at ease. So I'm going to take the Gators with the third pick, which then leads me to the next pick as we hit round two, because I get the first pick of round two. Correct, John?
You do. That's the way it works. That is the way it works in the interest of fairness.
In the interest of fairness. So, very simple. With the fourth pick in the 2025 National Championship Contenders Draft, the Fighting Fantas select the Houston Cougars. Because I think this is Kelvin Sampson's best chance to win a national championship. I think this is Kelvin Sampson's best chance to win it. Why do I think that? Because, CJ Moore, the Cougars always playing a high level defensively. This team's shooting close to 40% from three. So when you look at what they've got happening right now, LJ Cryer, Milos Uzen, their ability to both get buckets when they need it to happen. That front court's good enough. Juwan Roberts, to me, is tough. He's physical. He's mean. And he plays the game that way. They have enough pieces, and they have more pieces, I think, that can hurt you from beyond the arc defensively than they've had in the past. They have not been a team that can make your defense truly pay. Like, right, guys, they've had terrific guards, right? Shed and Sasser, but there hasn't been a ton of dynamic to their offense when we get deeper into the NCAA tournament. And this team's different to me because they've evolved. They took some early lumps. It was for the good of their season. And they went to Players Era. They took a couple of, they had a reality check out in Vegas of like, here's how we've got to be better. And they have been. Any team that is 29-2 in their last 31 Big 12 games, that is absolutely remarkable. And for me, Houston's offensive evolution as a program here this year to being a better team on that end of the floor, top 10 in the country, I'm never going to count them out defensively. I think they've caught some bad luck on the injury front. They're never going to get blown out of a game. Never. They play at 360 tempo. I'm taking the Cougars.
Yeah, it's a great job on the turn there, I gotta say. I mean, that was I don't think I expected Houston to last until my second pick, but that was a very solid turn there from you, John Fanta. Okay, CJ, you're up.
Took you out of your chair. I like those picks, Fantas. Both teams that I think have gotten better as the season has progressed. I'm going to go with my preseason number one team, and that is the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think that, obviously coming off the loss this weekend, maybe everybody's kind of down on them. Oh, they lost Auburn. Everybody freaking loses to Auburn. Like, not that big a deal. I don't think there's going to be many nights where Nate Oates' team shoots 5 of 26 from 3. I think that you've seen this group improve recently with the emergence of Chris Youngblood, who was hurt early. As he gets better, they get better. I think that you have one of the deepest teams in college basketball. Bringing a guy like Aiden Holloway off the bench who can, get hot at any point. LeBaron Philon is a wild card. He's now coming off the bench. And, I think he can take over a game with his speed at any moment. Mark Sears has not played to maybe the level he played last March for a lot of this year. But, hey, season's long. I could see him getting hot once it matters. I think that they've been there already. They've been to the Final Four. Defensively, they're better this year. I like this spot to get Alabama 5th. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
If I'm doing my math right. Is this the 5th pick?
Yeah.
Is this the 5th on the board?
Yeah, it's good value. I mean, I had them as my preseason pick, so as well. So I was gonna draft them if you didn't. So I mean, I'm kind of eating a little shit here. All right, because now it's about to get. Now we're going to the next tier, folks. Okay, the tier ones are all off the board. So now we're getting into that next tier, and I got to be the first one to kind of put his toe out there and kind of talk about where this is going to go. Listen, I have to go Iowa State. I have to go Iowa State here as one of my last two, just because we know, look, they were a tip in at the buzzer basically away from, beating Auburn. At the very least, that was a tie game. And I want to say they were up pretty big there, in the first half. I mean, we know what that team can do defensively, guard play all across the perimeter. You're getting Momcilovic back, and they're a different team when he's on the court. I think they kind of survived, for a couple of games, maybe even a few without him, but they need that shooter on the court. But regardless, with Gilbert and Jones, and you get the shooting of Momcilovic back and their defensive ability, I mean, they're going to be top 20 in both metrics. I'm going to take them to have a chance to win a title. I had them in my Final Four. I'm certainly not down on them because they hit little bit of a rough patch without one of their better shooters. So I'll take Iowa State. And then I think I go right back here, right? I'm right back with the final pick. I'm going to go with the Arizona Wildcats, man. And again, I know they just lost an absolute slobber knocker to Houston at home. But I thought for a good portion of that game, they matched Houston's toughness. I really did. I was incredibly impressed. And you're going to have to do that. And right now they're currently up on the road at Baylor. I know that Baylor team is undermanned, but to be able to show that you can win games like that on the road, we know what it comes down to, right? If Caleb Love has a off day and he continues to jack up shots, it can get away from Arizona. But to me, he's even showed more maturity there. Like he's got a little floater now that he's going to. He looks like he's more of a facilitator. They have guard play. They have defensive ability. Again, they have the metrics. I'm going to go Arizona here with my final pick to win a title. And then we go back to you, CJ.
I like those picks.
Now
Very
it gets
solid.
fun. Now it gets fun for you too, right? Who
now
we
it
going?
gets fun. So I got a list of teams here that I'm considering. The Johnnies, Michigan, who I think I snuck into our last draft we did, and people were questioning. They weren't even on the board at that point, and I got them in there. Texas Tech, Wisconsin, Purdue. Those are some of the teams I'm considering. But I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna upset Fanta here because I bet this is the direction he would go. I'm gonna go with Rick Pitino, maybe the greatest coach in the history of college basketball. Right, like he's up there. He has. I think their defensive fastball is the best in the sport. Like when they're really turned up, I think defensively they are probably the best team. And Houston's really close there, but I think St. John's might even be better defensively because of all of they have so much length and they can beat you up defensively. Offensively, obviously there's some concerns there, but Kadari Richmond, I think has improved as the season's gone on. RJ Lewis has obviously had a great season. I think they've got enough firepower to go on a run. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a team I end up picking to go to the Final Four, just because I think they're going to be such a hard out once you get to the NCAA tournament. And Patino's won a few games in March.
So, for my last pick, I am going to go off a note because these notes typically come true. Since 2004, every single national champion has been ranked in the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll. So that leaves me with this collection of teams. Gonzaga, Oregon, Purdue, Marquette. Tennessee has not been taken, correct?
Yeah.
Kentucky and Kansas.
Okay.
And I am going to go extremely bold in the here and now, and I am going to take the Kansas Jayhawks.
Whoa!
When they are at
Did
their
not see that one
absolute
coming.
lowest. When they are at their absolute lowest, and everybody has buried them, I just have a gut feeling that we should not kill them. And they have a couple of big games at Allen Fieldhouse down the stretch in their season. At home to Texas Tech, at home to Arizona. And you both know at Allen Fieldhouse, Kansas rarely ever loses. And that if they go out there and have strong showings against those teams, you're going to go in the tournament, you're going to say, they're still feisty, man. That's still a really dangerous team if they put it all together. If that team just finishes off Houston at home, that loss broke their spirit. It broke their freaking spirit. And it should have. But if I'm that locker room, I'm reading everything. Players read stuff. They see stuff. This team defensively had grown. They had taken some real steps in Big 12 play. And on Saturday night, they weren't the aggressor. I mean, Utah took it to them, took it to their defense, and was able to score effectively. Matson had a terrific game. That was a kind of an embarrassing loss. On late night Saturday night. It wasn't in the mainstream media, honestly, but it was one of those where you're just saying, you know what, guys, they're done. Like, they're probably cooked. Yeah. I don't trust Kentucky's offense. The other teams I listed, I don't trust. We're talking national championship. Here is what I know, CJ and John Martin. I know my eyes have seen Kansas beat Duke. I know my eyes have seen Kansas compete with some of the teams that we've brought up already on this show. And if I'm Hunter Dickinson, don't I want to have one last word? Don't I want to go on one last run? Or do I want this to go down as a failure of a 2 years? They're making the Sweet 16, and don't tell me other coaches want to see them in their region. I am going to go out on a limb, and it feels weird saying it. And if I have to pick a team and a coach still, I am thinking to myself that Bill Self, those practices this week, wouldn't want to be in them. I'd probably have a heart attack. Kansas is going to be all right. So I'm going with them.
I mean, it is bold because I haven't thought of them as a national title contender in about 3 weeks. So
right,
I mean,
but you thought of them as, but you thought of them at one time as one, and sometimes
that is true. That is true.
Nobody had Shabazz and UConn kind of figuring it out the way to the level that they did. You just in this sport, same could be said with Kentucky. You know, you might have thought maybe I go out and pick them if they're in this sport on the marathon. If you've shown a flash to compete with the top, that never leaves my brain of like, yes, they can do it. They can do it.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna sum these up really quickly. We'll go to each of you just to sum it up. My draft was Auburn, Iowa State, and what was my third? That tells you
shows what kind of locker room
Arizona,
you have.
Arizona. No, that was the
shows
one.
It was Arizona. You have.
No. In fairness, I mean, most of my picks were taken off the board. It was Iowa State, Auburn, and Arizona. CJ, who are your three?
I won the draft with Duke, Alabama, and St. John's.
Yeah, right, really strong draft. Really strong draft. I went with Florida, Houston, and Kansas. So I went with two from the Big 12 there, and I went with the Florida Gators, who own one of the wins over Auburn. And I'm very, very happy with my team.
I'm kind of interested. I know that they want us to go to a Player of the Year conversation, but I'm almost more interested in the teams that we didn't pick. You know, like there are some notable snubs, like Tennessee. Tennessee is obviously.
Don't trust them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting that you go to KenPom right now, and I know they're not the be all end all, but they're fifth at KenPom. I mean, they're ahead of Alabama, they're ahead of Iowa State, they're ahead of Arizona, they're ahead of St. John's, and it's just like it's amazing that we didn't even think about them really. You said it's hard to trust them.
It is. It's hard to trust them because they've been very frenetic at times with their results.